The provocation. The massive warship hung in orbit over New Horizon colony like a predator ready to strike. Its hull, marked with the distinctive spiral insignia of the Zavarian Empire, reflected the distant sunlight in cold, metallic gleams. On the command deck, Admiral Kreth stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, mandibles clicking in anticipation. "Primitive settlement," he observed, contempt evident in his deep, resonant voice. "No orbital defenses, minimal ground-to-space capabilities. The humans truly are as weak as our reports indicated." His executive officer, Vren, approached with a slight bow. "All weapons systems are charged, Admiral. Bombardment can commence on your command." Kreth's compound eyes shifted to the tactical display. New Horizon was home to nearly 30,000 human colonists, scientists, farmers, engineers, and their families. The settlement had been established only 20 Earth years ago, a fledgling outpost on the edge of what humans called settled space. "Begin the attack," Kreth ordered. "Standard pattern. I want to observe how they respond." The Zavarian warship opened fire. Energy beams lanced down through the atmosphere, striking with surgical precision. The colony's meager defensive systems activated, but they might as well have been throwing stones at a mountain. Within minutes, New Horizons' communication array, power generation facilities, and defensive installations were reduced to molten slag. "The humans are sending distress signals," Vren reported. "Let them," Kreth replied. "We want their homeworld to know what has happened here. This is merely the first demonstration." Down on the surface, chaos reigned. Emergency sirens wailed as colonists fled toward shelter bunkers. The orbital bombardment had been precise, targeting infrastructure rather than population centers. But fires spread rapidly through the settlement's eastern quadrant. Dr. Eliza Chen, New Horizons' chief communications officer, worked frantically at her console, which sparked and flickered from power surges. "This is New Horizon Colony calling any Earth vessels," she transmitted. "We are under attack by unknown alien forces. Orbital bombardment in progress. Requesting immediate assistance." The response came through static and interference. "New Horizon, this is UNSC Command. Message received. Maintain shelter protocols. Do not engage hostile forces. Repeat, do not engage." Dr. Chen slammed her fist on the console. "They're killing us. We need military support now." "Understood, New Horizon," came the maddeningly calm reply. "All available assets are being assessed. Maintain current protocols." Above, Admiral Kreth observed the colony's response with clinical interest. "They're not fighting back," he noted, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Just running and hiding, as expected." "Our intelligence reports were accurate, Admiral," Vren confirmed. "Despite their expansion through this sector, humans lack the warrior instinct of true spacefaring species. They've been fortunate to encounter only peaceful races until now." Kreth turned from the viewport. "Deploy ground forces. I want samples of their technology and any data we can extract from their systems." Dropships descended through the atmosphere, landing with precision around the colony's perimeter. Zavarian shock troops, bipedal with 4 arms and exoskeletal armor, emerged in formation, weapons at the ready. The colony's security force, little more than a police unit armed with basic weapons, attempted to organize a defensive line. They were brave but hopelessly outmatched. The Zavarians cut through them with methodical efficiency, advancing toward the colony's administrative center. In orbit, Admiral Kreth received the preliminary reports with satisfaction. "Send word to the High Command. The humans are exactly as we predicted, technologically competent but lacking martial prowess. This sector will fall easily." "What of Earth's response, Admiral?" Vren asked. "If their history serves as indication, they will protest diplomatically, perhaps impose economic sanctions." Kreth replied dismissively. "By the time they mobilize any meaningful military response, we will control all their outer colonies." 6 light-years away, aboard the UNSC carrier Intrepid, Admiral Elena Martinez received the distress call from New Horizon. Her weathered face remained impassive as she watched the incoming data, but her dark eyes hardened with each passing second. Analysis confirmed. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, attackers match no known species profile in our database. Based on weapons signatures and ship design, we're designating them as a previously unencountered hostile species. Martinez nodded slowly. And New Horizons status. The colony has suffered approximately 60% infrastructure damage. Civilian casualties estimated at several hundred, with many more injured. The attackers appear to be conducting a ground incursion, possibly for intelligence gathering. Martinez turned to her communications officer. Connect me to UNSC Command, secure channel. When the connection was established, Martinez spoke with quiet intensity. This is Admiral Martinez. New Horizon Colony is under attack by unknown hostile forces, requesting activation of Protocol Silent Shield. There was a pause before the response came. Protocol Silent Shield confirmed, Admiral. You have full operational authority. The 7th Fleet is yours. Martinez turned to her crew. Send encrypted communications to all ships in the 7th Fleet. Maintain communications blackout per protocol. No rescue attempt for New Horizon at this time. Her executive officer looked troubled. Admiral, the colonists are still under attack. I know, Martinez replied, her voice tight with controlled emotion. But if we respond now, we reveal our hand. The enemy believes we're weak and slow to react. That misconception is now our greatest advantage. She stood and faced the tactical display where the Zavarian warship was clearly visible in orbit around New Horizon. They think they can strike without consequence, she said quietly. Let them believe that for now. 3 weeks later, the Zavarian Empire launched its second attack. This time, the target was Artemis Station, a major human settlement and research outpost with a population of over 200,000. The attack followed the same pattern. A single powerful warship, precision orbital strikes against defensive systems, followed by ground troops. But this time, the operation was larger, with 3 Zavarian vessels converging on the station. On the Zavarian command ship, Admiral Kreth reviewed the battle plans with satisfaction. The humans' response to our first attack was exactly as predicted. Diplomatic protests, emergency meetings of their governing council, but no military action. They have begun evacuating some of their outer colonies, Vren noted. A reaction born of fear, not strategy. Kreth dismissed. Their military vessels remain in defensive positions around Earth and their core worlds. They lack the resolve to challenge us directly. The attack on Artemis Station proceeded with the same brutal efficiency as the assault on New Horizon. Orbital defenses, more substantial than the colonies but still inadequate against Zavarian weaponry, were systematically destroyed. Ground forces landed in key locations, overwhelming the station's security personnel. But unlike at New Horizon, the Zavarians encountered unexpected resistance. Artemis security forces employed ambush tactics, using their knowledge of the station's layout to channel Zavarian troops into choke points. Makeshift explosive devices disabled several Zavarian dropships. The humans fought with surprising tenacity. They're more resourceful than anticipated, Vren observed as casualty reports came in. Kreth clicked his mandibles in irritation. It changes nothing. Their resistance is futile without proper military support, which their government seems unwilling to provide. After 18 hours of fighting, Artemis Station fell. The Zavarians had suffered more casualties than expected but achieved their objective. The human settlement was now under their control, its resources and strategic position theirs to exploit. In his victory transmission to Zavarian High Command, Admiral Kreth was triumphant. The human colonies fall easily before our might. Their homeworld makes no meaningful attempt to defend them. As predicted, they lack the warrior spirit necessary for interstellar dominance. I recommend acceleration of our campaign timeline. The High Command's response was immediate. Proceed with Phase 3. Target the Perseus mining complex next. The resources there will fuel our continued expansion. Kreth's compound eyes gleamed with anticipation. The humans' lack of response confirmed what Zavarian intelligence had long suspected. Despite their technological achievements, humans were fundamentally a timid species, unwilling to commit to true warfare. Their expansion through this sector had been possible only because they had encountered no real opposition until now. That would be their downfall. What Kreth couldn't know was that aboard the UNSC Intrepid, now hidden in the shadow of a gas giant, 6 light-years from Artemis Station, Admiral Martinez was watching everything. Data from hidden quantum entanglement transmitters planted throughout human space flowed into the Intrepid systems, providing real-time intelligence on Zavarian movements, tactics, and capabilities. "They're getting bolder," Martinez observed, "moving faster than we anticipated." "The evacuation of Perseus Mining Complex is complete," her executive officer reported. "All personnel relocated as per Silent Shield protocols. We've left behind the automated systems as you ordered." Martinez nodded. "And the fleet?" "Assembly at Proxima shipyards is proceeding on schedule. All vessels report combat readiness at 97%. The new systems have been successfully integrated." Martinez studied the tactical display, showing the positions of known Zavarian forces. 3 major attacks in less than 2 months, with minimal response from Earth. The Zavarians believed they were witnessing human weakness. They had no idea they were being studied, analyzed, and prepared for. "They think this is a conquest," Martinez said quietly. "They don't realize it's a trap." The preparation. The Proxima Centauri shipyards had never been so active. Normally, the massive orbital construction facility maintained a regular rhythm of building, maintenance, and deployment. Today, that rhythm had transformed into an urgent symphony of preparation. Admiral Elena Martinez stood on the observation deck, watching as her fleet took shape. Warships of various classes formed up in precise formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of Proxima Centauri. Supply vessels moved between them, transferring crew, equipment, and munitions in a carefully choreographed dance. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" The voice came from behind her, and Martinez turned to see General Thomas Way, commander of the United Earth Marine Corps, approaching. "The largest fleet we've ever assembled," Martinez agreed. "And still not a whisper of it has reached Zavarian intelligence." We nodded, coming to stand beside her at the viewport. "Your Silent Shield protocol has worked perfectly. As far as they know, we're still holding emergency council meetings and issuing strongly worded condemnations." Martinez's expression hardened. "Meanwhile, they've attacked 6 more colonies. Perseus Mining Complex fell 3 days ago, all according to plan." Y reminded her. "We evacuated everything of value, including our people, before they arrived. What they captured were automated systems and empty habitats. Tell that to the families who lost loved ones at New Horizon and Artemis." Martinez replied, her voice tight. "The price of this strategy has been high." Y placed a hand on her shoulder. "And the price of failure would be higher. If we had responded immediately with what we had available, we would have lost. Now we have a chance not just to defend, but to end this threat permanently." Martinez nodded, turning back to observe the fleet. The centerpiece was her flagship, the UNSC Retribution, a Valiant-class supercarrier that dwarfed the vessels around it. But it was not the size of the ships that would make the difference in the coming battle. It was what they carried inside. "Status report on Project Nemesis," she asked. Y activated his datapad. "Integration complete on all designated vessels. Field tests exceed expectations. The Zavarians won't know what hit them. And the Alliance contingent arrived yesterday. Their ships are taking up position on the outer perimeter of the formation." This had been the most surprising development of the past weeks. When news of the Zavarian attacks spread through human space, Earth's longtime trading partners, species that had maintained cordial but distant relations, had offered their support. The Arcadians, with their advanced sensor technology, the Tellurites, masters of defensive systems, and even the reclusive Varrock, whose mysterious energy manipulation capabilities were legendary. They had formed an impromptu alliance, contributing ships and specialists to the human fleet. Their motivation was clear. If the Zavarians could attack human settlements with impunity, their own worlds might be next. Martinez checked the time. The final briefing starts in 30 minutes. We should head to the command center. As they walked through the shipyard's corridors, technicians and officers hurried past, each focused on their tasks. There was tension in the air, but also determination. After weeks of apparent inaction, the counterstrike was imminent. The command center was already filling with senior officers when Martins and White arrived. Star maps and tactical displays covered the walls, showing the known positions of Zavarian forces. At the center of the room stood a holographic projection of the Zavarian homeworld, Zavar Prime, and its defensive network. Martinez took her position at the head of the table. Ladies and gentlemen, in 6 hours we launch Operation Reckoning. You all know your roles, but I want to emphasize our primary objectives. She gestured to the holographic display. First, we neutralize the Zavarian fleet. Intelligence suggests they have committed nearly 70% of their naval forces to their campaign against our colonies. That leaves their core worlds relatively exposed. The hologram shifted to show the planned approach vector. We will make a coordinated FTL jump directly to Zavar Prime. The Arcadian cloaking technology should mask our approach until the last moment, giving us the element of surprise. A senior intelligence officer spoke up. Admiral, our latest analysis of Zavarian psychology suggests they literally cannot conceive of the scenario we're planning. Their social structure is built on a hierarchy of strength. They attack those they perceive as weaker and submit to those they perceive as stronger. The concept of a supposedly weaker species turning the tables is outside their frame of reference. Martinez nodded, which is why they won't be prepared for what comes next. She turned to the chief engineer, Commander Patel, briefed them on Nemesis. Patel, a compact woman with quick, precise movements, stood and activated a separate holographic display. It showed a schematic of a device that resembled a sleek, elongated pod. Project Nemesis is the culmination of 20 years of classified research, Patel explained. In simple terms, it's a quantum field disruptor that targets specific energy frequencies. When deployed, it will temporarily disable Zavarian shield systems and weapons arrays. Temporarily, one of the ship captains asked. Approximately 8 minutes, Patel confirmed, which is why timing is critical. Each strike team will have a precise window to accomplish their objectives. General Wei took over. Once Zavarian defenses are compromised, Marine strike teams will deploy to these key locations. The hologram highlighted several structures on Zavar Prime's surface. Our primary target is their central command facility. Intelligence suggests their entire military hierarchy operates from this location. Our goal is not annihilation, Martinez emphasized, looking around the room. We aim to neutralize their ability to wage war and force a surrender. The Zavarians respect strength. Once we demonstrate ours, they should be open to terms. An officer from the diplomatic corps nodded in agreement. We have prepared a comprehensive surrender document that includes reparations for the colonies they've attacked, but also a path forward for potential peaceful relations. Questions? Martins asked. A captain from one of the destroyer squadrons raised her hand. Admiral, what if they refuse to surrender even after we demonstrate our capabilities? Martinez's expression grew solemn. Then we are authorized to use all necessary force to protect human worlds. But that is a last resort. We are not conquerors. We are defenders. Remember that. As the briefing concluded, officers dispersed to their ships. The fleet would depart in carefully timed intervals to avoid detection, regrouping at the final jump point before the assault on Zavar Prime. Martinez remained in the command center, studying the tactical displays. Wai approached, his expression serious. Second thoughts? He asked quietly. Martinez shook her head. No, but I can't help thinking about how this all could have been avoided. if the Zavarians had simply reached out diplomatically instead of attacking. From what we've learned of their culture, that was never going to happen, Wei replied. They respect only strength, and they needed to test ours. And they concluded we were weak, Martine said, her voice hardening. A costly miscalculation. As she prepared to board the Retribution, Martine has received one final update from Earth. The Zavarian Empire had launched yet another attack, this time against the colony on Ta Site. Like the others before it, the colony appeared defenseless, its population seemingly abandoned by Earth's military. Let them enjoy this last victory, Martine murmured as she read the report. It will make tomorrow's lesson all the more profound. Aboard his flagship, Admiral Kreth received the reports of the Ta Site operation with growing confidence. The human colony had fallen even more quickly than anticipated, offering minimal resistance. His forces now controlled 8 human settlements, representing a significant foothold in this sector of space. Prepare a status report for High Command, he instructed Vren. Recommend acceleration of Phase 4. The humans continue to offer no meaningful resistance. Their outer defense perimeter has collapsed completely. As Vren compiled the report, Kreth reviewed intelligence assessments of Earth's military response. Their naval vessels remained clustered around their home system, with only token forces dispatched to neighboring systems. Intercepted communications suggested their leadership was in disarray, unable to form consensus on how to counter the Zavarian advance. It is as our cultural analysts predicted, Kreth observed. They built their civilization on cooperation and compromise, admirable for scientific advancement, but fatal in warfare. They simply cannot adapt quickly enough to our tactics. Vren approached with a data tablet. Admiral, long-range sensors have detected unusual activity in several systems adjacent to human space. Energy signatures that don't match known human vessels. Kreth examined the data with mild interest. Probably their allies providing humanitarian aid. The humans have trading relationships with several species. The pattern seems more coordinated than that, Vren suggested cautiously. Kreth dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper limbs. Continue monitoring, but maintain our focus on the next phase of conquest. The humans have shown their true nature. They abandon their colonies rather than fight for them. Their allies will take note and distance themselves accordingly. Little did he know that in precisely 26 hours, the true nature of humanity would be revealed in a way that would reshape Zavarian understanding forever. The Reckoning. Admiral Kreth was awakened from his rest cycle by an urgent alert. Disoriented, he made his way to the command deck of his flagship, mandibles clicking in irritation. This had better be significant, he growled as he entered. Vren stood at the tactical display, his posture rigid with tension. Admiral, we have multiple unknown vessels appearing at the edge of the Zavarian system. Kreth moved to the display, instantly alert. Origin. Unclear. They appeared suddenly. Our outer sensor array barely detected their approach. The tactical display showed dozens of ships, no, hundreds, materializing near Zavar Prime's outermost planet. Their configuration was unfamiliar, moving with precise coordination that suggested a highly disciplined force. Magnify, Kreth ordered, his voice suddenly tense. The display zoomed in on the lead vessels. What he saw sent a chill through his exoskeleton. The ships bore the unmistakable insignia of the human United Earth Navy, but they were unlike any human vessels Zavarian intelligence had documented. Larger, more heavily armed, and moving with a confidence that belied everything Kreth thought he knew about human military capability. How is this possible? He demanded. Where did these ships come from? Before Vren could respond, a communication request flashed on the main screen. After a moment's hesitation, Kreth nodded. Accept transmission. The screen filled with the image of a human female, her dark hair streaked with gray, her expression stern and unyielding. She wore the uniform of a high-ranking human military officer. This is Admiral Elena Martins of the United Earth Navy, she stated, her voice cold and precise. You have attacked human colonies without provocation, killed our citizens, and destroyed our property. These actions constitute an act of war against humanity. Kreth struggled to maintain his composure. Your colonies fell because you failed to defend them. In the natural order. We chose not to defend them. Martinez interrupted, because we were studying you. Learning your tactics, your weaknesses, your psychology. Every attack you launched provided us with more data. The implications crashed over Kreth like a wave. The humans hadn't been paralyzed by indecision or fear. They had been deliberately withholding their response. The Zavarian Empire has made a critical error, Martinez continued. You mistook patience for weakness, strategy for cowardice. That mistake ends today. The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the command deck as sensors detected massive energy buildups from the human fleet. All vessels, battle stations. Kreth roared. Deploy the defense fleet. Contact High Command immediately. Zavarian warships, caught completely unprepared, scrambled to form defensive positions around the homeworld. The orbital defense platforms, powerful but designed to repel conventional attacks, activated their weapon systems. Then the human fleet made its move. Instead of the expected frontal assault, the vessels split into precise formation groups, each targeting different sectors of Zavarian defenses. Their movements were too coordinated, too perfect, as if they knew exactly where each Zavarian asset was positioned. How do they know our defense protocols? Vren asked, his voice barely audible over the chaos of the command deck. The answer came moments later when strange, elongated pods were launched from the human vessels. They accelerated toward the Zavarian defense platforms, bypassing conventional intercept systems. When the pods reached their targets, they didn't explode. Instead, they emitted pulses of energy that swept across Zavarian systems. One by one, defense platforms went dark. Warships lost power to their weapons arrays. Shield systems flickered and failed. What is happening? Kreth demanded. The chief engineer, frantically working at his station, looked up in disbelief. It's some kind of targeted energy disruption. Our systems are functional but unable to access power reserves. It's as if they found a way to interrupt the specific energy frequencies our technology uses. Vren finished, comprehension dawning. They weren't just studying our tactics, they were analyzing our technology. Before Kreth could respond, a new alert sounded. Multiple smaller craft deploying from human vessels, a sensor operator reported. They appear to be troop transports. Kreth stared in disbelief as hundreds of human dropships descended toward Zavar Prime, bypassing the disabled defense systems. This wasn't just a punitive strike or a show of force. It was a full-scale invasion. Order all ground forces to defensive positions, he commanded. Activate the planetary shield grid. The shield grid is non-responsive, the engineer replied, panic evident in his voice. The same energy disruption is affecting all major defense systems. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kreth felt something he had never experienced before. True fear, not for himself, but for his homeworld. The humans had revealed themselves to be not the timid, disorganized species Zavarian intelligence had portrayed, but something far more dangerous. A species that could absorb initial defeats, study their enemy, and strike back with overwhelming force. Connect me to the human admiral, Kreth ordered, his voice subdued. Martinez's face appeared on the screen again, her expression unchanged. You wish to discuss terms, Admiral Kreth. Kreth straightened, maintaining what dignity he could. You have disabled our defenses through means we did not anticipate, but the Zavarian people will fight to the last warrior if you attempt to occupy our world. Occupation is not our goal, Martinez replied. Unlike the Zavarian Empire, we do not seek conquest. We demand three things: immediate withdrawal from all human colonies, reparations for the damage caused, and a formal non-aggression pact. And if we refuse? Martinez's expression hardened further. The devices currently disabling your defense systems can be modified to permanently disable your entire technological infrastructure. Your civilization would be thrown back centuries in development. We don't want that outcome, but we are prepared to enforce it if necessary. Kreth's mandibles clicked slowly as he processed this information. The human strategy suddenly became clear. They had allowed the initial attacks to proceed not out of weakness, but to gather intelligence and prepare this overwhelming counterstrike. While the Zavarian Empire had been celebrating easy victories, humanity had been planning their destruction. "I will consult with the High Command," Kreth said finally. "You have 1 hour," Martins replied before the transmission ended. The consultation was brief. Faced with the reality of their situation, the Zavarian High Command, for the first time in their history, voted unanimously for surrender. The alternative was not just defeat, but potentially the end of their civilization as a spacefaring species. When Admiral Kreth transmitted the formal surrender, he included a personal message to Admiral Martinez. "We misjudged your species fundamentally. The Zavarian Empire has existed for 2,000 years, and never before have we encountered a species that could absorb initial defeats as part of a greater strategy. It is humbling." Martinez's reply was simple. "Remember this lesson. Humanity does not seek enemies, but we will defend ourselves with all necessary force. Today you learned what happens when someone strikes Earth's children without consequence." The human Marines who landed on Zavar Prime did not behave as conquerors. They secured key military and command installations, disabled weapon systems, and established a perimeter around the capital city. But there was no looting, no civilian casualties, no displays of dominance that the Zavarians would have expected from a victorious enemy. Instead, diplomatic representatives arrived, presenting the formal terms of surrender for ratification by the Zavarian government. The terms were firm but not punitive. The Zavarians would withdraw from all human territories, pay reparations for the damage caused, and submit to restrictions on their military expansion for a period of 50 Earth years. In return, humanity offered technological and cultural exchange programs, trade agreements, and eventually, a path to normalize relations. As the human fleet began its withdrawal 3 days later, Vren found Admiral Kreth in his private quarters, studying historical records of human conflicts. "What are you searching for, Admiral?" Vren asked. Kreth gestured to the data displays. "Understanding. Their history is filled with conflicts among themselves, wars more brutal than anything in Zavarian records. Yet they emerged unified, capable of this level of strategic patience and coordination. And have you found answers?" Kreth clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Perhaps. There is a human military philosopher named Sun Tzu from their ancient past. One of his teachings says, 'Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak.' Another says, 'Know your enemy and know yourself, and in 100 battles you will never be defeated.'" He turned to face Vren. "We knew neither the humans nor ourselves. We saw what we expected to see, a species that expanded through diplomacy rather than conquest, and assumed it meant weakness. We never considered that their approach might be a choice rather than a limitation." Aboard the UNSC Retribution, Admiral Martinez watched as the last human vessels departed Zavarian space. The operation had been a complete success. Minimal casualties on both sides, a clear demonstration of human military capability, and a resolution that offered a path forward rather than endless conflict. "Message from Earth Command. Admiral," her communications officer reported. "They're calling it the most successful first contact war in human history." Martinez shook her head slightly. "There's no such thing as a successful war, Lieutenant. Only necessary ones." General Wei, standing nearby, raised an eyebrow. "Philosophical at the moment of victory, Elena." "I'm thinking about Admiral Kreth's message," she replied. "They misjudged us because they couldn't imagine a species that fights differently than they do. I wonder how many other misunderstandings are waiting for us out there among the stars." Wei considered this. "At least we've sent a clear message to anyone else watching." Humanity is not to be trifled with. Martinez nodded slowly. Yes, but I hope they also understand the other half of that message. We do not seek conquest. We do not strike first, but attack our people. She left the sentence unfinished as the retribution engaged its FTL drive, leaving Zavarian space behind and heading for home. Throughout the galaxy, news of the Zavarian Empire's swift defeat spread rapidly. Species that had observed humanity's expansion with caution or dismissal reassessed their analysis. The humans had revealed themselves to be not just technologically capable, but strategically sophisticated in a way few had anticipated. In the decades that followed, the phrase "Remember Zavar Prime" became shorthand throughout galactic diplomatic circles. It meant, do not mistake humanity's preference for peace as inability to wage war. Do not strike what appears to be an easy target. And above all, do not assume you understand the limits of human capability based on what they choose to reveal. They had learned what the Zavarian Empire discovered too late, that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons or their ships, but in their ability to absorb initial defeats as part of a greater strategy, to wait to plan, to study their adversary, and then to strike with overwhelming force when the moment was right. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but through a demonstration that they could not be conquered. And in doing so, they established a peace far more lasting than any achieved through continuous warfare. For as Admiral Martinez had told her crew as they returned to Earth, we fight not because we love war, but because we value peace enough to defend it. That is the message we delivered today, and the galaxy has heard it clearly.